Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hilmi IHTIFAZHUDDIN bin Burhanuddin.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone, my name is SUFIAN. We are from group 28 and our research is about youth perception towards plastic waste management in Malaysia.
This is the overview content of our presentation.
I will start with research background. Ecological sustainability is important to protect the global ecosystem to support health and well-being since plastic waste was very disappointing and the problem needs to be prevented for a better future. The rise in plastic usage has led to risk of the ecosystem due to its mishandling of disposing plastic. Awareness and good perception will give our youth to promote environmental sustainability in executing policies and address long-term change. Therefore, this research will help in examining the elements that might influence youth attitude towards plastic trash management through environmental knowledge and social responsibility.
For our problem statements, it is critical that the younger generations adopt recycling and reusing activities in order to limit trash accumulation and help sustain consumption. Youth ecological awareness may increase their sensitivity to environmental concerns, which is a step forward to citizens' sense of environmental responsibility. Because environmental attitudes can influence environmental behavior, hence, this study was designed to examine numerous elements that may contribute to a better view of plastic waste management among Malaysian youth, as it will assist marketers, the industry and policymakers in making decisions that would cater to this demographic segment in the future.
I will explain to you about research question and research objective. Research question can be related to research objective. This study will be used RO level for research objective and it will be used throughout the discussion. For RO1, this study will examine the level of knowledge, the level of awareness and the level of action taken by youth towards plastic waste management. Next, RO2 stated the objective to determine the relationship between the knowledge of youths towards plastic waste management and the impact of plastic pollution in Malaysia. Furthermore, RO3 mentioned the objective of determining the relationship between the awareness of youth about the policy or regulation of plastic produce and the impact of plastic pollution in Malaysia. Next, the objective for RO4 is to determine the relationship between the action taken by youth in order to prevent the increasing of plastic usage and the impact of plastic pollution in Malaysia.
For our conceptual framework, we have three independent variables, which includes knowledge of youth about the plastic waste management, awareness about the policy or regulation on plastic produce, and lastly, action taken by our youth in order to prevent the increasing use of plastic usage. And our dependent variable is the impact of plastic pollution in Malaysia.
Next, I will explain to you the hypothesis. The hypothesis for this study will be based on the research objective where it will help to achieve the purpose of the study, and each hypothesis has been labeled as shown in the slide. For RO2, the hypothesis of H01 illustrates there is no significant relationship between the knowledge of youths towards plastic waste management and the impact of plastic pollution in Malaysia, while H1 stated the opposite of H01. Next, for RO3, the hypothesis of H02 demonstrates there is no significant relationship between the awareness of youth about the policy and regulation of plastic produce and the impact of plastic pollution in Malaysia, while H2 expressed the opposite to H02. Furthermore, the hypothesis for RO4, which has been labeled as H03, explains there is no significant relationship between the action taken by youth in order to prevent the increasing of plastic usage and the impact of plastic pollution in Malaysia, while H3 stated the opposite of H03. For RO1, the hypothesis is depend to the mean result of the independent variable, where the mean level for each independent variable will sum up the youth's perception towards plastic waste management in Malaysia.
Moving on to our research methodology. Our research design, we chose to adopt a quantitative research approach that depends on a survey as main data that was implemented, cross-sectional designing, which the variables of interest were implemented to the subject. Our unit analysis is the individual who is currently a student at UiTM Seremban campus, Negeri Sembilan. The sample size is 357 to 361 individual who is a student at UiTM campus. Our sampling techniques comprises of sample random, systematic sampling, stratified random sampling (SRS), cluster sampling, area sampling, and double sampling. Moreover, for our data measurement, the study uses a Likert scale, which the scale consists of 1 to 5 marks. There will be 5 parts of the questionnaire, and each part consists of 10 questions for each part. Then, for the data collection from the respondents will be based on the list of parts, namely Part A, demographic profile, Part B, knowledge, Part C, awareness, Part D, action, and Part D, impact. Lastly, for our data analysis, we only use mean and Pearson correlation as our research statistical approach in achieving our research objectives.
Next, I will explain about findings. This study has received 365 respondents from UiTM campus students. From the result of the demographic for this study, the majority of the respondents was female students with the amount of 221 respondents at 60.5%. Moreover, this study has identified that the majority of the respondents was at the age 21 to 23 years old with the amount of 290 students with the percentage of 60.0%. We also can see that 66.8% of the respondents were at the level of bachelor degree with the amount of 244 students. Many of UiTM campus respondents for this study came from the Faculty of Administrative Science and Policy Study with the amount of 222 students at 60.8%. Majority of the students were living in the city area with the amount of 231 of the respondents at 63.3%. There were 26.6% of the respondents who are currently Part 6 students with the number of respondents at 97 students. As we can see, Malay students are the majority of the respondents with a record of 91.8% and 355 over 365 students. We move on to hypothesis test. From the result that has been gained from 365 students, RO1 shows the main result for independent variable with each of the variable having a score as shown. For variable of knowledge, 4.17, awareness 4.11, and action 4.05. By referring to the Likert scale for measuring the result, we can see that the average score is between 4 to 5. Where it's measured to the agree and strongly agree with every question given to the respondent. Thus, the level for independent variable where the youth perception towards plastic waste management in Malaysia has been identified. We move on to the next finding. For RO2, the objective is to analyze the significant relationship between the variable knowledge and impact. The result shows that 0.643 for Pearson correlation and significant for two-tailed P equals to 0.00, where P is less than 0.5. Thus, the hypothesis for H01 has been rejected and hypothesis H1 has been accepted. Next, for RO3, the objective is to analyze the significant relationship between the awareness and impact. The result shows that 0.984 for Pearson correlation and significant for two tails P equals to 0.00, where P is less than 0.05. Thus, hypothesis for H02 has been rejected and hypothesis H2 has been accepted. Moreover, RO4, the objective is to analyze the significant relationship between action and impact. The result shows that 0.661 for Pearson correlation with significant for two-tailed P equals to 0.00, where P is less than 0.05. Thus, hypothesis for H.3 has been rejected and hypothesis H3 has been accepted.
Moving on to the research recommendation. By referring to our hypothesis testing, we would suggest that we should give youth environmental leadership roles based on the knowledge of youth to prevent the impact of plastic waste pollution in Malaysia. Secondly, we need to make use of social media and technology based on awareness of youth to prevent waste pollution in Malaysia. And lastly, we should give opportunities to participate in environmental sustainability initiative based on action by youth to prevent the impact of plastic waste pollution in Malaysia. Next, there are some limitations that we face during completing this research. Firstly, we have faced time constraints, where we have no control over the process of choosing students to obtain the survey or the time necessary to send the survey to the selected students via email. Therefore, future studies should have made sure to plan a proper time management that enable the study to gain more sample. Secondly, we have difficulties in finding respondents due to COVID-19, as well as irresponsible response that causes our data to be corrupt. Therefore, future studies should be more creative and progressive in gaining more respondents. Lastly, due to improper planning, we also had communication breakdown when completing the research. Therefore, future studies need to make use of good planning process ahead of time, such as having a milestones throughout the progress to avoid any problems.
To conclude the discussion, this study has generated crucial information concerning the awareness of the youth concerned with plastic waste management in Malaysia. Despite that, the research indicates that Malaysian youth have a high degree of environmental knowledge and a favorable environmental attitude where their level of environmental involvement is limited. Thus, Malaysian youth must be proactively involved in environmental concern and provide with the knowledge and skill to make environmental decisions for themselves and for the future generation. That's all from us. Thank you.